So the bodywork part in Healthy Dynamics is being face down. I usually start people face down, depends on what's going on with them. And I put my hands on them. I feel what's going on in my own body when I do this. So I can feel in this client that there's some discomfort in the left hamstring here. So, but I'm aware of that, but what I'm feeling is that there's some issues up here. So he's got a pretty bad trigger point here. So this would be part of the myotherapy. So I'm going to go into the trigger point to try and release the trigger point so that that function in the hamstring actually feels better for him. And how I see things is, I'm just going to ask him to take a deep breath in. And I'm usually going to talk to the client, when you're here and say, I'm going to ask him, like, does he have an old injury? It feels like he's had like a contusion, like a blow to the leg or something, or like a groin pull. So I'm just going to ask the client, have you had a hamstring groin injury, some kind of a blow to the leg?
I was Mr. Sporty right up until my mid-30s.
Yeah, so for some reason that issue, that injury is stuck in his left hamstring, but it's now caused a dysfunction all the way up in his shoulder. So I'm just going to ask him to think about that and just try and get the mind body to release that old injury so that he doesn't have to hold that 30 years of torsion kind of in the muscles and into, because it's not serving him. It's not doing his body any good. So I just felt an adjustment in my neck there. So I hold the spot until I know that it changes. And the client will sometimes tell me I can feel it in the body. I've got my hand down here on one of his lower back muscles because there's a muscle in there that I feel is also holding the tension. So it's like doing acupressure, I suppose, in some ways, is what the myotherapy aspect of things is. And I just felt my whole spine just relax. So I'm like, I need to get off that spot because it's not, just let his body adjust. And I've got just my left hand is just vibrating. There's just a lot of vibrations going on. So I'm just what I'm seeing is connecting his hands to his feet. So this is how I can't separate the intuitive part of working on the body because everything comes together, but it's part of working the physical. Sometimes the physical needs to be worked. It wants to be worked out. I always get a breath when something changes. So I'm just feeling a breath and my spine wants to rotate. So I'm just going to let that shift for him. And so now I'm drawn into the left calf. It's like the body just talks to me. I hear it in my head. It's just like, hey, down here. So I'm like, oh, there's a gastroc trigger point here. So this is where the soleus, there's just a major trigger point here, and I know where it is. And again, I'm going to put some pressure on his hamstring. And I'm just going to, and all of a sudden I'm just saying, I feel like he might feel a different sensation of hot, cold. So I'm just going to say, if you feel a different sensation, just let me know. My body just moves, it twitches. And I'm just drawn up into his neck. So I'm seeing colors, so I'm just waiting for his neck to change color. There it goes. So I'm just drawn into just a different little spot here. There we go. That's really tied into his hip, which is tight. There goes his left knee. I just felt his left knee go backwards. So it tells me it's releasing the trigger point. And trigger points can be there for years. They can be there from childhood. We jump off of things. We, think we're Superman. We do all sorts of things. There, my jaw just shifted. So the jaw tells me that it's structure and function. So I just want to go into the calves. So the body just really, even intuitively, through body talk, but physically for me, the body just talks to me. It tells me where it wants me to go. So it's not, I used to use a technique where it was like just, start from one side, but now I really pay attention to the person's body rather than using a technique. I let the person's body guide me. So somebody might say, well, why did you work my left shoulder, but you didn't work my right hip? It's just like, because your left shoulder needed to be worked and your right hip didn't want it. Because if I would have went and worked on that, it might not stay where it's supposed to stay. So here he's got an Achilles tendon problem, and I want to go up into his diaphragm and release his diaphragm, where what is a muscle? It's a hip flexor muscle. So again, we're just going into the trigger point. And all of a sudden I'm hearing the words whiplash. So again, I'm going to say to the client, you ever experienced a whiplash injury?
Like hockey.
Yeah, like head back, right? Like he's got head butted in the head. So I'm just going to say, okay, you're just going to, same thing, we're going to think about that. That was a long time ago. We don't need that in the body anymore. It's not serving a purpose. He doesn't have to hold that contraction in his neck anymore, because he's not doing those activities like that, and it's not serving a purpose for the body. It's not allowing the body to free up. This is making my throat hurt, and it's really like dry throat. And now I just felt his Achilles tendon twitch. And I'm still waiting, because he's got an organ that needs to just shift. So there, I just felt his heart drop backwards. And there's the breath. Then he's got a cramp going on. And it's coming from the side here, so it's okay. We're just going to tell him to just do what he needs to do to let that go, because he's been in contraction for so long in it that it's got to shift. So sometimes, when we release the body, after a session, some people might say that they feel a little worse, but they might feel better in the area that they were wanting it to be in. I always tell clients to phone me if they're ever having issues, to try not to work it out themselves. And then I'm just going to release his spine here, because I'm just following his pattern, the pattern of where he was holding that muscle contraction for so long. And then I'm just getting to realign this part of the just anatomy. He's trying to realign this with the base of his skull. So his cranium works with his sacral, so that he has more movement in the lower lumbar, in the spine. And this I'm just feeling energetically. Words pop into my head. I just know where to place my hands. I'm just guided. So he just stopped breathing, and I was drawn into his knees. So I'm like, oh, okay, why is the energy not moving all the way through his knees? Well, because same thing, he's got there we go. So I just felt a shift in that left hip again. There's a breath, and we're just trying to bring the energy from his spine so that he gets a little bit more rotation in his pelvis, so that his knees can have more energy going through them, so it can open up his knees. So this will give more function to the knees. It will allow meridians to open up. There we go. And I know that when my neck just twitched like that, I know, I hear it in my head, and it's like C4 just adjusted. So he's got just another vertebrae here that just needs a little bit of attention. So I'm just bringing the attention to his body, because I'm telling his body, you need to heal this. Needs to be shifted right here. And touch is so important, because it brings our brain reacts to proprioception. I just wait and wait. Sometimes it takes a while. Next, just adjusting. I have a little pain under my right shoulder blade, so I'm going to ask him, because I'm being told, I need you to just bring your arm to the side here and just lift your elbow up a little bit. Down a little bit, right about there, and just hold that. What his body's wanting is trying to get the contraction out of here, so we're going to get him to activate that muscle so that he can actually deactivate it. It's too activated all the time, and we're just saying, hey, this is the activation you're in, and we want to deactivate it so that that muscle can return to normal function. There's the breath that I get, so I'm like, okay, you can drop that shoulder. And we're just going to put a little bit of energy into that bone, and I'm just going to let his body shift that. And I feel really thirsty all of a sudden, so I'm just going to drink some water for him. Hydration is what our body is made of, and the water is really important for cellular conduction and stuff. So that's why I said when I feel things in my body, it's like I'm just holding that space for his body, but I'm working through my body, working on his body, and really working on myself at the same time, because there's no separation.